Welcome to the Mr. Universe Meets podcast in association with the Mansformation Programme. Now, the Mansformation Programme is a 12-week programme for men that want to level up their training, nutrition, lifestyle and mindset so that they can live in a body that looks great, feels great and has unstoppable energy. On this podcast, we're going to be speaking to athletes that have reached the top of their game to understand their mindset, habits and routines and what makes them elite. I want you to take advantage of the lessons they teach and go and smash your own goals. I would love it if you guys would like, share and subscribe and enjoy the podcast. All right, welcome to another episode of Mr. Universe Meets. It's been a while since I've been back in the studio, so what a way to kick it off today. Mr. Universe Meets, arguably the GOAT of the Mr. Universe competition. Welcome, Eddy Ellwood, 5-time Mr. Universe winner. Thanks so much, mate, for coming down.
Thanks for having me on, Stu.
Yeah, no, brilliant, mate. So look, I mean, Eddy, I've literally looked up from you to day one. My first competition was the 2001 Mr. England.
Okay,
I was a junior.
Yeah.
I think about 18-year-old. And I remember walking. I think the only actual experience that I had was the Mr. York show, because I'd been and seen the Mr. York show because the people that I worked for, they ran the show and stuff like that. And I was walking through. It was at the JJB Stadium in Wigan at the time. And you were in a jacket, like the official's jacket. And I was like, looked up here, and then I looked across at one shoulder and looked across at the other shoulder. I was like, oh my God, this is unreal. So, literally, to have you sat here today, mate, is phenomenal, because literally it was...
One of my jackets that don't fit me anymore. Guess who bought it?
What was that?
Bill Kazmaier.
Oh, did he?
Well, he didn't buy it, actually. I give him it. He asked to buy it, and I says, no, you can have it, Bill. Yeah. As long as you're going to look after it. You know.
Yeah, well, we've had Bill on the show.
Have
you? Yeah.
He got me dog tooth jacket. I don't know if he still wears it.
Yeah. I shall ask him. We've just been in business together for the last year, running his online coaching program and stuff like that. So I'm just moving on from that now to someone else is taking over that now. But I still speak to Bill pretty much every week. Good. So yeah. I told him you were coming on. Actually, he was made up.
Well, I've had experiences with Bill over the years.
Yeah, definitely. So you are a 5-time Mr. Universe winner. And not just a Mr. Universe winner, but 5 professional wins, 5 back-to-back wins. Never been done before. Yeah. Probably never going to be done again. Yeah. The record holder for that as well.
Yeah. I had to, when I'd reached 4 titles, I was ready to retire, but I thought I have to create some legacy, and I have to come back and try again. So I did, and I won. Yeah. So
Arnold had the 4 titles, right?
Arnold, Eduardo Kawak. Somebody else has got 4 now. I'm not too sure.
Yeah. So, looking back, obviously I've done my research on this, and I've looked back through the old pictures and the videos, and obviously the documentary that you've got out and watching all that. Like, you are still the benchmark for like a tall class bodybuilder now, So it's phenomenal how ahead of your time you were, really.
I think we both agree that back in the 90s there was a massive field of heavyweight bodybuilding champions, and it was hard to break in at the IFBB professional level, especially because you had a stage full of 30 plus competitors, all big, tall heavyweights, and you don't see that anymore. But back then, I competed, which you don't even see today. I competed 20.5 stone, which is 287 pound in condition, at 6'1", which is, it's a monstrous weight. And I didn't really comprehend how big I must have been, because you never take stock of how you look yourself. You look in the mirror and you judge yourself. But I was in my father's gym a few years after retiring, and I remember seeing one of my dad's competitors from his gym stripping off in the room, just get a look over. And I looked at him and I thought, bloody hell, he looks big, So I questioned him. I said, "Hey, Marty," I says, "What weight are you?" He says, 15.5 stone. And that hit me like a brick on the back of the head. I thought, fuck what must I have looked like at 20 and a half stone? And it was hard for me to comprehend at that time.
Marty Fannin, was it?
Yeah, Marty Fannin.
Yeah. So he was doing it at the same sort of time that I was, So look, I mean, I'm really looking forward to this chat because it's not just bodybuilding, it's not just strongman. There is, so many different areas that you have excelled in and done so many different things throughout your life.
I'm not just a one-page book. No.
Definitely not, mate. Definitely not. So look, like most podcasts you've probably done in the past and that, let's go back to the start, mate. Give us a bit of your backstory and where it all started for you.
I grew up in a pit village, 2 working class parents. My father worked sea coal, which was the mines used to tip in the open sea, and we had the worst beaches in the country. They were like full of pollution, but the stone and everything would get broken down. It would get washed. The coal became lighter than the stone and got washed up onto the beaches. So my dad used to go down and collect that with wagons. And I started working for my dad at a young age during the school holidays. And I'm talking like graft, like we would fill a Army Bedford wagon, which could hold up to 8 ton. We'd fill maybe 5 loads by hand, just 2 of us. So you're talking 40 ton filled by hand off the beach, you know what I mean? And it was that was rigorous work. And I always had grafting as at an early age. I started boxing. My dad bought us my first pair of boxing gloves, and got on his knees in the house and showed me the fundamentals of boxing, which then took me to the local boxing club. And I started boxing at an early age. I got my medical card at 12. And I had numerous amateur fights, probably only half and half wins, up until I became a senior. And then when I reached the senior ranks, my testosterone was coming in, I was becoming a man. But I was only fighting at light heavyweight. And my last fights, I went to the local ABAs, area ABAs, and I weighed in 2 pound over the light heavyweight limit, which I only had 10 minutes to actually be able to lose. And my coach just said, bugger it, just like fight heavyweight. And I'm like, I'm 19-year-old fighting heavyweight, which I'm going to give a good stone plus away. I'm going to struggle. So anyway, he said, you'll be all right, just fight heavyweight. So I boxed two brothers from Newcastle, the Hallets, and I beat both of them to get through at the final. And I boxed a lad called Manny Burgo in the final, who was he'd worn an England best, so he was a seasoned fighter. And I knew I was going to struggle with Manny, so I just basically, I knew I would have to just box him, not let him put his body weight on us, not mix it with him. So I did, and it was a very, very close fight. But he beat us on a majority decision, which was 2 judges to 1. So it was a close fight. I came away from the fight and I thought, now I'm going to have to start weight training, put the extra body weight on to become a heavyweight fighter. And my dad had always been in the weights. He'd always run local bodybuilding gyms and training gyms. And that was the first time I'd really sought his advice for to put weight on. And he wrote us a basic diet out, got us training on the weights. But I was a very party kid. I'd grew up on fried egg and beans, chips and beans, just basic food, wholesome food. But I'd never been a lover of steak or just eating healthily. And I knew I had to. So I got myself into a program where I just ate healthily. And I finished the boxing in the May. And my dad said, why don't you give a local bodybuilding show a go just to get your body weight on clean? And I thought, yeah, that's a good idea. You know what I mean? So
you always grew up around that training environment?
Yes.
Your dad had always had gyms from you being young?
Yeah, my dad my mum had actually competed in the Miss Universe.
Oh, okay.
As a, I think she was about 17, 18-year-old. It was just when they wore bikinis and did a little bit of training in the gyms, But, yeah, my mum's always trained. My parents have always trained, so I grew up in that background. Yeah.
And you talk about the physical work with your dad that you did. I mean, we talked there about Kazmaier before. Grew up very outdoor life. He built a very good base of strength just from living that outdoor life. Darren Sadler, who's been on the podcast as well, grew up on a farm. Do you think that contributed to that sort of natural ability that you had when it came to lifting weights?
100%. I mean, all my life, I learned to train hard. I learned to work hard. So my training was always very intense and very thorough. I wouldn't leave anything in the gym. I would always come out the gym knowing I'd give it to me all. Speaking of Darren Sadler, I spent 10 years training with Darren Sadler, like as a training partner for Strongman. And we helped each other along a long way. But yeah, a story which is on the documentary, basically, I remember as a kid, like being the leader of the local bonfire, we chopped a lamppost down in a local field for it to be the centerpiece of our bonfire, right? And it was a big, very heavy tar-covered lamppost, and we all carried it. There were 6 of us carrying it to the following field where we had the bonfire, but we had to cross a road. And in the dark, as we were crossing the road, there was lights coming down the road, and everybody thought, if it's the police, so they dropped the lamppost. Well, I couldn't leave the lamppost on the road, so I dragged the lamppost into the field on my own, and I don't know how I done it. I really don't know how I done it.
So you obviously, like you say, you grew up around gyms, you had that training environment, you had a very outdoor sort of life, very physical sort of, upbringing as a kid. But boxing was your main passion?
Boxing was my love. At school, I daydreamed just about boxing. That's why I was probably never indoctrinated with all what you should be doing, because all I daydreamed about was becoming a world heavyweight champion. I watched Muhammad Ali on the television, all black and white boxing, and my dad would get me up early hours of the morning to watch satellite fights of him and Joe Frazier, George Foreman. I would watch them and I would be in awe. And that's where I got my inspiration from. And I believed all my life, I was going to turn into somebody. I thought, I'm not just here just to be a normal person. I'm going to be somebody, whether that's the drive we all have as sports men or athletes, I don't know. But I was I'm going to be a world champion boxer. I said it in school one day. As people, we were asked at school, I think it was the first, second year senior school, and the teacher asked, what do you all want to be when you grow up? And I said, world heavyweight champion. And everybody turned around and laughed at us, and they were and I was just looking around the class thinking, what you laughing at, you know what I mean? That's what I'm going to be. Like I say, it didn't turn out that way. I ended up a heavyweight champion, but just in a different sport.
Yeah. So you left boxing to try and you went into bodybuilding to try and put a weight on. Did you never? The goal was to go back to boxing?
The goal was always to go back to boxing. And I still kept on doing the pad work in the gym. Still had fast hands, even though I was getting bigger and heavier. But after my first bodybuilding show, I don't know, something hit me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the change in my physique, I enjoyed the way I was looking, I enjoyed the way I was feeling. I was getting a buzz, I was getting high off just the addiction of the strength and everything else. So I thought, well, I'll give another bodybuilding show a go to get a bit heavier. And I think after my second show, because I'd won them both, I just thought, this is where I need to be. So
do you have any, obviously, you did obviously unbelievable in bodybuilding and the path that you went down anyway, but the money's not in bodybuilding. The money would have been in every boxing, right? Do you ever have any sort of regrets about not going back?
I never regret anything in life. Obviously you wonder. I have no regrets in anything I've done in life. Any negative side of things, I always treat them as lessons. They're just the lessons that we come here and learn lessons, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, obviously, it was a skill for life that you picked up, which stood you in good stead when you worked in the doors, and we'll come to that in a bit. But let's start the bodybuilding. So, talk us through that first competition.
Obviously, you don't have. I didn't have very much posing ability. It was just. It was very, very mechanical. Went and coming off this, and I didn't think I was anything anyway. It was a junior competition. I was 19-year-old. I was 20-year-old. I turned 20 that year. I was 20-year-old and I won the Junior British Isles. And I thought I'll give her the Junior North Britain, which would be the following year. So within 6 months, I'd won an amateur bodybuilding show, a junior show. I thought, well, we'll just choose another show. So I chose the Junior North Britain to have a go for, and started dieting, started preparing for that. And I put another £10 on from the October through to the May. Through to the April. October through to the April, which was the North Britain. But in the March, I turned 21. But the junior age is 20 or under on January the 1st. But people started spreading rumours that I was too old. And I didn't know this. I didn't know this was going on. So when I turned up at the bodybuilding competition, Oscar Heidenstam and all the guys who were around at the time come to me and said, "We've been told you're too old." I said, "I'm not too old." well, you need a driving license or a passport. I didn't have any of them. And they wouldn't allow me to get on stage in the juniors. And I had to do the novice competition. Broke me heart, really, because I thought like I could have won the juniors that year. Anyway, I went into the novice competition and ended up getting a third in my area, but still qualified as to go to Britain because I was still good enough. There was 3 top juniors. Went to the Britain and ended up getting 5th place in the novices, when the novice line-outs then were like fantastic line-outs, you know, just a miniature Mr. line-out. And I got a 5th in the novice Britain, which then just forced me straight into Misters. So within a year of training, I was a Mister. And I was thinking, I'm going to have to put some weight on now. So I went back to the gym. And that's when, like, say, the boxing and the bodybuilding became, the boxing started tapering out, the bodybuilding started coming in. And I started training for the following year, Mr. British Isles. So I'd won the Junior British Isles after 6 months training. Now I'm doing the Mr. British Isles after a year and a half training. And I won that competition. Then I went into doing the tall class Mr. Britain. And I got 5th in my first year at the tall class Mr. Britain within like 2.5 years, you know. And then the following year, I got 2nd to Basil Francis. I think that was in 1988. I got 2nd to Basil. No, sorry, 1987. I got 2nd to Basil Francis. In 1988, I come back and won the tall class. Then in 1989, I thought I'm coming back to do the overall Britain, and that's when things went a bit sour with Nabba because I had to take them to court to get to compete.
Yeah, and this blew my mind when I realised this, because I was like...
Nabba's never been political.
And that's the thing, you know, and even more so because I went, well, hold on a minute, we'll go to that later, but you had to take them to court to compete. Years down the line, you're literally ahead of the federation. So it's a funny old journey, but we'll come to that as we go along. But just going back to the early years with the bodybuilding shows, who were your early mentors? Was it just your dad that was guiding you, or did you?
My dad guided us. My dad guided us with the basics, but that's all he knew was the basics. You know, he would take me to local people for advice, but then I had to get on me. I had to start doing my own research. I had to start reading my own books, and I had to start gathering my own information. And as you know, you experiment with yourself, and you find out what works and what doesn't work, and you keep the stuff that works, and you reject the stuff that doesn't work, and that's how you build on your plan on how to get ready for a show. And eventually, you've got that plan stitched up. It's years of work and dedication and discipline and like say trial and error. So today, if I could have been the same man in probably 25-30% less time if I knew everything in the beginning. So you know yourself, when you're coaching somebody, they're getting your first-hand knowledge of everything that you know positively, but without the negatives.
100%, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Years and years of trial and error, what works, what doesn't work, they get all the good bits straight away.
They get the good bits straight away. They don't have to suffer, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, you were at that point where it was like the boxing fell off and you were fully focused on the bodybuilding. Like, you're obviously bitten by the bug of bodybuilding at that point. You know, explain that. Like, what is it about bodybuilding that just hooked you?
Do I have to explain to you?
Well, not for me. You know, just like
it's just like it's. I'll have to use the analogy of women here. Why do women get hooked on it? Because they feel something that they've never felt before. They feel a strength. Women don't produce testosterone, so when they start getting that strength from a testosterone boost, they crave that feeling. And it's when you're going through them stages in life where you're producing a lot of your own natural testosterone, and you feel your muscles growing, and the strength in your muscles, and the physical change in your physique, it hooks you. Yeah, it hooks you. It is an addiction. You know, you don't want to miss days in the gym. You even train Christmas Day. You know, it's an addiction. Regardless of what like people say about the healthy side of things, it's an addiction for you because you mentally start thinking like if you don't, then you're going to lose your physique, and it becomes a full-on addiction.
Yeah, I also for me it was the fact that I was 100% in charge of my outcomes. The harder I worked, the better the results were, and there was a huge correlation in that. You know, it didn't. You know, you never got to take it easy and look better.
Yeah, you didn't have to rely on anybody else.
Exactly
it was down to you and you only. Which is why I've always been involved in them. So it's boxing's the same, you know, and bodybuilding was another elevation from the boxing. It was basically I'm in charge. There's only me can win. You know what I mean? I'm not. The only way you don't win is if you give your power away.
Yeah, you've never been one for team sports then.
I still played rugby as a kid, but I was never. I was more. I suppose you're selfish. You know what I mean? It's a selfish sport, and I was never a selfish person, but I wanted the acclaim. You know what I mean? I didn't want a team acclaim. It's not your acclaim, is it? You know, you want to achieve, and a team has to achieve, not just you. You know, so it's I suppose it's down to the achievement aspect of it.
Yeah, and I think it's not just like I don't know, maybe even a strongman on the day. Someone might be feeling a little bit tired, or a little bit, you know. With bodybuilding, there's nowhere to hide. You stood there in your little pants on stage. Everyone say like, there's no backstory or well, he's tried really hard. It's like it is the best physique on the stage that wins. Yeah. There's no way to like
you can't hide from it.
Exactly right. You know, so it's like whoever's majority of the time whoever's worked the hardest. Obviously taking genetics out of the equation, but the majority of the time whoever's worked the hardest, you can see that in the physique and they win the show. Yeah, and that's what I like to.
100%, because like say the best genetics in the world, if they don't work hard, they don't win. You know, it's the person who works the hardest, even with the weakest genetics, will necessarily take the trophy away.
Yeah. So let's go back then to you said the 1989 Nabba. You were going for the overall.
Yes, yeah.
You had been banned. You'd been banned from the federation, right?
So what happened was, I qualified from doing the UK. I very rarely did that. The area shows. So I'd like to do the UK as a qualifier, which was always around October, November time. And then it gave me a lot of time to prepare for the Britain. And I also could go around the shows and see who I was going to be competing with. So I had an idea of who had better body parts, what I had to train for. And at the time, there wasn't many federations about. And WABA had just come into the country. And my dad was offered a position as the WABA Northern rep. And this came about because we took massive support to Blackpool, where the Britain used to be. Like we would sell 100 to 150 tickets for the Britain finals. The gym was that popular at the time, and we'd take 2 bus loads and book boarding houses in Blackpool to take the supporters across, and it was a great weekend. They came for the weekend as well as the bodybuilding competition, as well as like like me, a local lad from a small little pit village, was doing well. They all wanted to come to support. So it was a good weekend. It was good camaraderie. They would go for the full weekend. And when my dad took the WABA job on, I think Nabba were worried that they were going to lose the support. They were going to lose the support anyway with what they'd done. Yeah. But they must have thought, well, maybe they thought they were going to lose the support nationally. I don't know what the thought pattern behind it was, because I'm part of the committee now. Well, I do see some ignorance on the committee, to tell you the truth. But my dad took on this job, so I'd done a couple of guest appearances at WABA shows around the country, just to get the federation off the ground. But I was still qualified for the Britain. And I got a letter through from the chairman at the time, Tony Sullivan, said Nabba had decided to ban us from doing the Nabba Britain. And I'm like puzzled. I'm thinking, Nabba's never been political and never banned anybody before. So I sought advice. I was unemployed at the time, so I sought advice, and I got legal aid, and I got in touch with a sports barrister from Leeds. Right, and I had to travel down to Leeds to see the sports barrister. He says, yeah, we'll take them to court. He says, they can't stop you from competing. It's an amateur federation. You're looking to try and get professional money from it eventually, and they're withholding your progress through the sport. So, yeah, we'll take them to court. Well, it went to Crown Court, And it was to be heard the eve of the Britain. And that was like 10 weeks away. At the time, it was 10 weeks away. And I was thinking, well, I've got to train and get ready for the show, not knowing whether I'm going to be able to compete or not. So I decided, fuck it, I'm just going to have to just get ready, be the best I can. And people were saying, what if they don't let you on stage? Well, at the Opera House, there was toilets downstairs in the Winter Gardens. I was thinking, I'll just go down there, put my trunks on, walk into the hall and jump on stage, hit a few shots and then just get off. You know, they're not going to stop me from being seen after I've dieted all this time. So we went to court in Leeds, and we had 2 busloads waiting outside the gym. We didn't have mobile phones with to be able to contact each other at the time, and there was no social media, nothing like that. So people were just waiting for a phone call or waiting for us to turn back up. So there was 2 busloads waiting outside my mum and dad's gym. We went to court in Leeds on the morning, the Friday of the Britain, and Nabba didn't send anybody. They sent nobody to contest it, you know. So the judge said, right, Mr. Ellwood, I'm going to grant you an injunction to compete tomorrow. Nabba hasn't turned up, you know, and you deserve that chance to be able to go and compete tomorrow. So I'm granting you an injunction. That'll be served at Blackpool tonight to the officials. We will send somebody over. That'll be served tonight. I says, thanks very much. And I headed up back, like, beaming there, like, I'm competing. As I get back, the buses erupt, you know, like, yeah, we're going, you know. So, well, we were going anyway, regardless, but, like, they were happy that I was going to compete. When I was sat in the audience the next day, on the way into the venue, I was all like, I was a bit cocky. The first time I'd ever been cocky because I'd won my place to get on the Britain stage twice. You know what I mean? Not just qualified, but I've won it again in court. And I was walking through the Winter Gardens, and the Scottish rep, John Clements, was approaching us with a smile on his face. And I thought, I know John, and like you know our officials, you talk to them and you treat them as you find. And I went, all right, John, he goes, all right, Eddie, what you doing here? I went, I'm here to compete. And his face just changed. He went, oh, but you're not. And it went from a smile to like aggressive towards us. And I was like, what? And he just stormed off. So I went into the hall again, like smiling at myself, thinking like I'm competing regardless of what you think. And at the time when there was a judging and a show, you had to sit through the judging, and the misters were on at the end. So it was halfway through the afternoon, 2:00 in the afternoon, and I get a call, could Eddy Ellwood please come backstage? And it was Tony Sullivan, who was the chairman at the time. God rest his soul, like I say, we did become good friends. And Tony said it was, right, Eddie, he says, we're just getting an injunction from the High Court London to say that you cannot compete today. I went, serve it then. We don't have to. I says, you do, you have to serve it. He says, no, we don't. I says, you have to serve it, otherwise I'm getting on that stage. I said, you can't just bluff us with it like you've got an injunction. Anyway, he says, I says, listen, I'm getting on that stage. If you can't serve an injunction, I'm getting on that stage. He says, no, Judge Papadopoulos, I always remember the name because it was like sounded so surreal, like Judge Papadopoulos of the High Court London has given us an injunction. Yeah, you're not serving, I'm getting on that stage. So I walked back in the audience, told me parents, and I got another call. So I said to my dad, will you come and witness it? So he went back. And I tried to say the same again. I said, no, I'm getting on that stage. If you can't present a thing, I'm getting on that stage. So I come back in the audience, and I did get on the stage, and to me, amazement, I won. And afterwards, I saw the score sheets. I got all first places. Right now, I was like astounded that I'd gotten all first places. So I had 9 firsts, because there's 9 judges on the panel. I had 9 firsts. But I remember coming off stage and judges coming up to us and saying, well done and congratulations and well done for standing up for yourself. And then I realised it was like the judges at bodybuilding shows are not the reps. The local competitors come judges who have been part of the sport and have the same ilk as yourself. They just want to see bodybuilding succeed. You know, there's no politics there at all. So they were all for us, and it was a nice feeling. But after coming away from that, I got a phone call from the Southeast rep, who said basically over the phone that you never go and do nothing with Nabba again. And I said to him, I says, well, if you were saying that as a judge, then you should be judging. You know, I said, you should be like judging us unbiasedly, regardless of your opinion about me. And that's when I decided to go IFBB.
Yeah, I suppose it was, I mean, like you said, fair play, I suppose, to the judges on that day, because they could have been told, you're going to mark him down, or he's not supposed to be here, so no. And he called it down the middle.
I'm going to show competitors today, because I'm part of that background bit of the judges and the reps. I'm part of that. And I fought hard to make sure that the judging is done very, very precise anyway. If there's any bias, it's removed before the judging scores is added up. And like I say, it's a subjective sport anyway, so we've got to be very, very... If there's judges that have marked completely the wrong papers, like they put their own first and they shouldn't have been first, then papers are removed.
Yeah.
You know, we put a reserve judge in. So, I don't see... People say, there's people, backroom things going on. There's nothing like that goes on.
I don't think, has anyone ever taken Nabba to court since?
No, it's never happened, because that's never been... Well, actually, there has. I think Michael Sullivan took them to court. Well, not necessarily Nabba, but Michael Sullivan tried something in court a few years ago.
Right. Not to get on stage, though.
No, not to get on stage.
So, I mean, that's obviously a kind of theme that's run through your life. You wouldn't accept the injustice, and you were prepared to go right the way to the court
100%,
to do it. And like you say, that's carried on right the way through.
It's the biggest lesson my father ever learnt me as a kid, taught me, and it was to never bully anybody and never be bullied. And it's stuck with me all my life. Yeah. You know, through everything I've done.
Absolutely, mate. So, you then thought, right, enough of this, I'm going down the IFBB route?
Yep. So I competed in the EFBB that year, and that was the Ian Harrison one. You know, he got his pro card in 1989. I got third that year. Not disappointed, because the competition was that good. Come back in 1990 and competed. And that was the first year I made a big mistake with my diet, and I realised that fluids were important. You know, like what happened with me was I'd listened to somebody else, and again, it's your trial and error. Somebody said you need to stop drinking from 12 o'clock midnight and just sip, or just have ice cube chips. Or I was always ready and in shape anyway, but I was a big believer in carb loading to bring the water back into the tissue. So I was already in shape, I was already depleted, but then taking the carbs in without any real amounts of water coming in robbed me internal organs of fluids, because if the carbs haven't got nothing to pull in, they're going to take it from everywhere else. So I'm walking around Wembley Market, not really, the night before, looking amazing, walking around Wembley Market the next day prior going on at the judging, feeling asthmatic. I'm like, there's something wrong here, I can't get a breath. And then feeling backache. And I'm like, I've got backache and I can't breathe properly. And then getting on stage, not being able to get a pump after all them carbs, not being able to get a pump, not being able to catch a breath, not being able to pause properly, not being able to feel a pump, the pause or anything. And I came off stage and I realised what I'd done wrong. But it was too late, the judging had been done. So I got second to Mick Theo. But in between the judging, coming off at the judging, I said, my mum said, what's gone wrong? And I said, what's gone wrong is I'm dehydrated. And I said, I need some isotonic drinks. And there was a lot of health food supplements stands at the shows then, and I just went to one that sold isotonic drinks, and I bought a case of 24, and I drank every one of them. I sent my mum to the shop to get us a couple of tubs of ice cream, because I was just like parched. I had 2 to 3 litre tubs of ice cream, and I didn't go to the toilet once between the judging and the evening show. And you know yourself, when you start soaking up like that, you just soak up like a sponge. And I went back on the night time, and Johnny Citrone was there on the night. He'd only come to the nighttime show, and he couldn't believe that I'd been beat. I was Eddie being beat today, you know, because I was a different physique on the night, and that's how much of a fine line it is. So,
were you using diuretics at the time?
No, I never used diuretics. No, I've used diuretics in the past, but I realised the disadvantages of diuretics. You know, if you're already in shape, you're ready for a show, and you use a diuretic, you know yourself you can lose 10 pounds overnight.
Yeah.
that £10 hasn't come from body fat or water beneath the skin. It's come from muscle tissue. And if you weigh that £10 out in meat on the table in front of you, it's a lot of meat, you know. And if you try to visualize you've lost all that density from your tissue, it's like maybe your year's work of putting tissue on. So the disadvantages coming from diuretics was a lot bigger than any advantage that would come. I did use diuretics for guest appearances because that was at a period where you were carrying excess bodily fluids, and it would just help sharpen you up for a guest spot, but not for a competition.
Obviously, once you'd gone down there and then you got to winning your pro card?
So I got second in 1990 and I had to come back in 1991. And it was like make or break, really. It was my third year in. And like you say, they only give one pro card out every year. It wasn't given out like confetti like today. It's mental, isn't it? You know, it is mental. I mean, I think there was 1,000 pro cards given out last year. I
remember there was a lot at my gym. It was a few years ago because this has been going on for a few years. This is like, you know, pre-COVID times. It was like they were still just giving them out all the time. And this lad's first show at this crappy little federation, I don't even know what it was. Yeah. He got second. It's his first show. He got second. He announced that he'd just turned pro.
I know.
Fucking joking me, mate.
I know.
So
it's hard that they under that illusion that they're a professional physique when they wouldn't win a novice competition back in the day.
The guy wouldn't have even placed at the regional Nabba.
And it's horrible because they get used. They're taking finances off them for professional cards. The more cards they give out, it's like the Two Bros Pro thing, you know, like I think it's 300 quid you have to pay for a professional card. You know what I mean? If they've got 1,000 pro cards given out, you know, it's £300,000 they're making on professional cards. You know what I mean?
And it's just the end of people's career, really, because what are you going to do after that? Yeah. You could stay an amateur and just, you know, be competitive and build your way up and do it the right way. What are you going to do in the pro ranks when you're just not ready for it?
My name's Colin Wiseman. I'm on week 11 of the Transformation programme with Stuart Garrington. Been tough. It's the good type of tough that when you realise all your mistakes the previous year of eating too much and drinking too much.
I'd just say whatever your goals are, it gets you there. I set out with this as a 12-week programme, and like I say, I plateaued for 10 months, and within 3 weeks, I beat my expectations.
I've had to have surgery during the programme, but we've not changed anything. We've just changed the programming slightly. It's been great all the way through it, so yeah, I'd recommend him. 100%.
It's one of these things, I think, if you give it a chance and have a bit of self-discipline, I'm into the 5th week now and I literally feel the best I have done in years, to be honest.
So, but you turned pro in 91, like you say, it was insane standard. There was one pro card given out.
And then my last amateur show was in Ireland, and I bumped into Diane Bennett, daughter of Wag Bennett, the host of Arnold when he came into the country during his universe years. And Diane took a liking to me straight away, you know, because I'd won this show in Ireland. It was just like a local international event, you know, like, oh, we'll bring a few in from me and a few in from them. We'll call it an international. In Ireland, it was just after the IFBB, after my IFBB win. So I went over there, won that, and she says, what's your steps for your pro debut? I says, why don't you do the Arnold Classic? And I'm like, is she taking the piss? I'll never get an invite for the Arnold Classic. You know, they only give 20 invites out the Arnold Classic at the time. It was $150,000 prize money. And I'm thinking, like, there's no way I'm going to get an invite the Arnold Classic in my first pro show. I said, I'll never get an invite. She says, I'll get you an invite. And I listened, right, and I said, you get me an invite, I'm doing it, you know. Anyway, she said, get in touch with this person who ran the Federation for Arnold. And I rang him, and it was all sorted. Yeah, just send us your details, we'll put you in the file, we'll send you they'll put you up, they'll give you a nice suite. Obviously, I just had to sort my flights out. And I ended up turning up for my first pro show, which was the Arnold Classic. Mistake I made was Wayne D'Amelio wasn't involved, and he was the head of the federation, and I don't think he liked me taking this back door in. And so that was the first mistake I made politically, I suppose, coming from Nabba, the IFBB, then get me pro card, and then not even going through him, you know. And I get it, because most people, like say, had to earn their way to the Arnold Classic. They had to earn their way. But I thought it was just a good way of me getting seen straight away, and I was going to take that opportunity. It wasn't that I was being pig-headed, just trying me luck. You know, it was, if somebody's going to offer me something like that, I'm going to take it. So anyway, and I went down to Diane's house. She showed me around their father's gym at the time, which had pictures of Arnold. It was like shrine. It was like museum to Arnold, really. And then we had tea, and she got a photo album out, and it was all of her at Arnold's wedding. She went, I was the only person that Arnold would trust with a camera at his wedding. So when you went to Arnold's wedding, all the cameras were taken away, so they couldn't sell them to the press. He trusted her because obviously they'd been like family. You know, so she had a photo album with Arnold's wedding pictures.
So how did you do at the Arnold?
So when I got the Arnold, I wasn't. This is not a time when I was at my best as a IFBB pro, but I still thought I was good enough to maybe just make a little mark. You know, I shared a dressing room with Rick Gaspari and Bertel Fox, and I'm like looking at them like. But looking at these two people that I'd seen in magazines in my career, who I'd always looked up to, and thinking like, I've got the making of these. You know what I mean? But I'd never felt that way ever. Backstage, you know yourself, you look at other people and you think, man, they're big, they are this. You always put yourself down, and then getting on stage when you win, it's a surprise. I looked at these two for the first ever time. I thought, I've got the making of these two. They don't look that clever. You know what I mean? Condition-wise, they weren't as conditioned. Anyway, I got on stage, never got a look in. Came off stage and got a lot of adoration from the American people at the time, because it was my first pro show. Afterwards, they had a big banquet in a hall, and thousands of people, because, you know, the way the Arnolds are now, I mean, it's a big festival now, but this time they had this big, massive hall where you bought tickets to go and have meals with the bodybuilders, but the bodybuilders were segregated in a pen in the middle with a fence around, you know. It's not me, you know what I mean? I'm not going to go in there and sit away from the people, you know what I mean? So I sat on a table outside the pen. I thought, I can't segregate myself from real people. And I got a lot of support for that, you know, like people come up saying, we can't believe you didn't place, man. You know, like, and again, I never believed I should win any IFBB shows, but I always thought maybe he's deserving of top 15, and I wasn't getting top 20. And the only reason I did the English Grand Prix was to let the English people see that I was capable. I just wasn't getting a shout, you know.
When you'd broke into the IFBB, did you have like genuine Olympia aspirations?
Yes, 100%. I mean, anybody who goes to get an IFBB pro card wants to do the Olympia. My last show, I'd been there 4 years, and after coming back from Nabba and winning a lot of shows, and then all of a sudden you're not even a number on stage. I remember doing the Night of the Champions in New York, which was Wayne DeMilia's show, and I thought, I'll do Wayne's show. And then he says, oh, my show's full, you'll have to pay your own way and everything. And I thought, I'll just show Kane, I'll just go and do his show. So I went and done his show. And there was 35 competitors on stage. And I only happened to be number 35. So what they did, the stage wasn't wide enough to get 35 competitors on. It was only wide enough to get, say, a 12 on. So they did a 12, and an 11. So they had 3 rows. I only had to be in the back row, number 35. Hiding behind a curtain, practically. And I'm thinking, like, well, obviously, and what should happen here is they should judge the front row and then bring the next row down and rotate it down the front. They never did that. I sat at the back, losing pump, losing passion, losing everything, while everybody else was getting judged just because of who they were. And I came back from that demoralised, but carried on thinking, like, I'll just keep on showing I'm willing, and just keep on. And for 4 years, I didn't get placed anywhere other than at an English Grand Prix. And I remember going to the English Grand Prix, and I said to my parents, I said, regardless of where they put me today, I said, even if it was 1996, I said, even if I was capable of winning the show, I'm still going back to Nabba. I'm not taking this political nonsense, you know what I mean? And I competed and got they ended up placing me 7th. I've still got the score sheet. I got a 7th, but that just kept me out the prize money and stopped me. Ended up getting an Olympia invitation. I deserved a 5th, I think, that year, but give me a 7th.
You also got pulled by, was it Wayne D'Amelia, about like your arms and said that you wouldn't?
Oh yeah, sorry. So Wayne D'Amelia had rang while I was training at my dad's gym. Strange phone call. Wayne D'Amelia had rang to say, can you speak to me? So my dad shouts, Eddie, Wayne D'Amelia's on the phone. So I'm thinking, oh. So I goes and answered the phone. I said, hello, Wayne. He says, hi, Eddie. He says, you ain't ever, this is just all he said, you ain't ever going to do anything with IFBB because you got no arms. And I'm like, I didn't even know how to respond. You know what I mean? I was thinking like, surely he should have said, yeah, you're good, but you need to improve your arms. You know what I mean?
A little bit of positive feedback and criticism.
You know what I mean? How you would speak to somebody and give them a bit of, a bit of hope. You know. And I was thinking like, anyway, I got off the phone and I said like, and that was basically he said a few other things, but that was basically all he'd rang for. And I got off the phone, I thought, I'm just going to fucking grow my arms, aren't I? So, my arms were my weakness because of my boxing. And over the years, you know yourself, you can't make a long-distance runner into a sprinter. You can't make his legs like a sprinter's legs. Because my arms had trained that way with fast work for so long as a youth, they were hard to simulate into growth for density and thickness. So I just had to persevere and persevere and persevere. So they were never on par with the rest of my physique. Like my chest, my back, my legs, you know what I mean? My arms were never on par. But also my legs, my chest and my back was probably over strong. You know what I mean? So it was not going to even more out of balance. Yeah. But I did persevere and persevere and persevere. I came away from that show and I went and done, in 1996, I went straight away 4 weeks later and did my first professional universe.
I was going to say, at that point, weren't you just sick of the bullshit of bodybuilding? You had the politics in Nabba.
Yeah.
You had the politics in the IFBB. Were you not just like...
No, I still cannot, I cannot be defeated. You know what I mean? I have to keep going until I make my mark. And as much as I felt as though it was a step back over, it was the only way I was going to be allowed to compete. So I felt as though it was like in football, you've got the Premiership and the Championship. I felt as though I was stepping down from the Premiership, where I was probably low end of the Premiership, in at the top end of the Championship. So that's where I felt as though I was at, and I felt as though I was more comfortable there, because at least I was going to be allowed to compete and enjoy my final years of bodybuilding.
But why choose Nabba? Because, they banned you, you had to take him to court, you had the rep telling him you'd never do anything. Why was that the choice to go back there?
Because for me, it's still the fairest federation. It was just a bad group of political reps at the time. You know, they just didn't know what they were doing. And I knew I could make a mark in Nabba, and I knew I could improve the standard of judging, I could help out with how how not to run it politically.
Let's go through, obviously, you went back to Nabba, you went on your journey for 5 consecutive Mr. Universe titles. Let's talk a little bit about mindset. Like, how focused were you during those competitive days, and that's particularly that run of 5 universes?
When I came back to Nabba, and my mum even said I did a guest spot for Brian Robinson at the North Britain at Gateshead in Newcastle. And I felt at home, you know what I mean, because I was accepted again. And you know yourself with positive mindset, how much positive mindset plays on improvement. And I had stagnated in them 4 years because of all the negativity I was suffering. And I didn't realise that. So when I started getting that respect from the audience and respect from the judges again, I started improving again. I started enjoying what I was doing again. And I just thought, I can win this competition. I can do it again. I can do it again. I was never big-headed where I thought, like, I'm definitely going to win it again next year. Like people used to say, oh, you must be confident again. I was saying, no, because you don't know who's going to turn up. You don't know who's going to... If somebody turns up better than me, then they deserve that, you know? I'm just going to go and be the best I can. And I felt as though I did that. I improved every year and just came bigger and better every year.
Yeah.
I think my final years, I think 1999 was probably my best year for being my driest and best condition, best symmetry and driest. And people like look back at that and say, well, how come you weren't on the Olympia stage? Because that's not what I was looking like back then. And that was good enough to be on the Olympia stage, but that's not, it wasn't where I did get an actual invite from Wayne Emilia through a third party asking, will you ask Eddy Ellwood if he wants to come back to do the IFBB? And I just said, tell Wayne Emilia to shove that sand out where the sun don't shine, because I knew what what the final result of that would have been. They just humiliated me.
So it's interesting you use the words that you felt at home in Nabba.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I felt. As a junior, I went and I just wanted to get experience. So I did some Nabbas, I did some IFBB shows. The level of support is different class in Nabba compared to what it was like in the IFBB at the time. So like I said, people like Paul Jeffries obviously putting his arm on me and helping me. I think he actually invited me up to the Worlds in 2003 up in Aberdeen. And I was never ready to go there. But he'd obviously seen something in me. Exactly right. So the experience of it, and I was looking at all these Class 1 guys, and I think John Citrone was doing the 50s possibly at that time. And like you say, it was inspiring, and that was quite a pivotal moment of I'm not supposed to be here, but I'm going to be.
I think that's I always say to the competitors from my gym, if you get a Universe or a Britain invite and you feel as though you're not ready, still do it.
Yeah.
Especially the Britain, because the first time you step on a Britain stage, you're in awe and you're like a rabbit in the headlights. You've got to get over that.
So how much belief did you actually have in yourself? And because like for myself, I knew that I was going to be Mr. Universe like 3 or 4 years before it actually happened. I was telling my friends, this is what's going to happen, it's how it's going to be. And even though maybe other people didn't have that sort of level of belief in me, I knew myself that it was going to happen. For yourself, how much did you believe in yourself, and how much did you know that you were going to make it to the top?
I knew my capabilities, and I knew what I was capable of. And like I said, I felt when I coming back from the IFBB, I knew I was an IFBB pro, and I was a confident IFBB pro that hadn't been given a chance in the IFBB, so I was going to be top end of the championship. As far as Nabba was concerned, I was going to be top end of Nabba. And I knew I was capable of doing that, just I had to put the effort in still, and still had to turn up best on the day. But I knew I was more than capable of winning the Universe title at that stage of my career.
What about before that? Because let's go back to the days of you did the Junior British Isles and stuff like that. What was that pivotal moment that you thought, actually, I know I can go all the way in this?
That wasn't my aim then. I never believed in the beginning. I've never had that full-on knowing where I was going till I reached certain points in my life. So in the beginning, I'm going to be Mr. Universe one day. That's not how... I think that all came about, like say, when I realised I was going to be a professional. I wanted to be on the Olympia stage, and I thought I could be one of the best in the world on the Olympia stage, and obviously that wasn't the case, so I was going to be the best in the world on the Nabba stage, and I knew I was more than capable of doing that, so because of the standard I'd already been competing at. But it was a belief, but you still have to put that effort in. It wasn't just, if you put the effort in, and you train as hard as you can, and you live the lifestyle constantly like a monk, that there's nobody else going to be doing that. And if you're consistent with that, that's the name of the game, is consistency. If you're consistent with that type of lifestyle, there's no stopping you.
And you did work hard in the gym, obviously. Explain your training style. Like, what was the style? What was the split? Were you like a volume guy? Were you like a Yates high intensity guy, or what was it?
When I first started training, I followed my dad's split routines. But in my professional years, I realised I had weaknesses, and you'll know yourself. You don't like leaving alone the strengths what you have. It's a bit of a, like, I can't do that. I can't train less on the body parts that I have strong, but you have to. You've got to mould your physique into a better balance. You've got to leave those muscle groups alone that will grow and respond quicker than most muscle groups. So my dad would say you need to start leaving your legs alone. you know, because your legs are just big enough and you need to start concentrate on this, that and the other. And I didn't want to, you know. So I devised, I thought, well, it can't just be down to that. It must be down to how your muscles work and under load. And so I devised a routine because, like you say, we have fast and slow twitch muscle fibers. And each individual is built differently. So my fast and slow twitch will be different proportions to your fast and slow twitch. And in every individual, there'll be different proportions. So it doesn't make any sense to train high repetitions or low repetitions in heavy weight. It makes sense to train a bit of both, so you're going to get both muscle fibers responding. So then, and also, you know yourself, you have to have 72 hours rest between each muscle group to give the muscle time to recuperate and restructure itself and grow. You need the nutrition, you need the sleep, you need that rest, you know, in between. If you have something missing out of all that, you ain't going to grow. You know, it's like putting a key into a lock. If there's a tooth missing off the key, it won't turn that lock. You know, so having that, all them things in play, you're going to open the lock one day. So fast and slow twitch muscle fibers, I thought, why don't we train one muscle group heavy and one muscle group light? So and try not involve the second muscle group you're working in the same day as the heavy one. So I made a routine which was a push and a pull each day. So you weren't incorporating the same muscle fibers in other muscle groups. So I started with training heavy legs on a Monday, and I did a pumping shoulder routine on the same day. So the heavy legs takes probably 30-35 minutes intense training with like a minute, 40 seconds to a minute's rest in between sets. But the low reps will be down like 6 to 8s, you know, using heavy weight, concentrated full repetition movement, still hard and pushed, forced reps. The pumping routine would just be maybe 3 or 4 exercises, and even try setting, like just high repetition exercises, just filling the muscle full of blood. And that might only take 20-25 minutes. And that's how I did it. So I did a heavy legs and I did pumping shoulders on day 1. On day 2, I did heavy chest, which was a push, and I did heavy light biceps, so pumping bicep routine, which was a pulling movement. So you're doing a push-pull. On day 3, I did heavy back, and then a pump and tricep routines, same scenario as the first day. And then I would turn that completely on its backside, and I would do heavy bicep, pumping legs. Day 5, I'd do heavy tricep, pumping back. And day 6, I'd do heavy shoulders, pumping legs. Did I get that right way around?
Yeah, so you basically just switch around. Whatever you did in day 1, the heavy one became the light, the pumping one.
So it was a routine trained over 6 days.
Okay, with 1 day off a week.
With 1 day off a week. And I found that each muscle group was getting trained with the fast and slow twitch muscle fibers. Each muscle group was getting 72 hours rest before training again. And because you were responding each muscle fiber differently each time you worked out, you were getting growth, you know. And I found that the best routine. And I stayed with that routine for probably the last 3 or 4 years of my professional career, not changing a thing other than if exercises were getting stale, I might swap an exercise around, you know. But the pattern was the same.
Obviously, like I said, I've done my research on this episode, and I've heard you talk about that before. Mm-hmm. But I'd never heard anyone put that routine together in all the different styles of routines that you hear. Yeah. You know, and it just makes so much sense, right, with the muscle fibers.
Yeah, and the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, perfect. So, talk about like rest and recovery. You had 1 day off a week. Did you ever take much time away from the gym after competitions, or were you straight back to it?
I was like you say, I was addicted to training.
Yeah,
I couldn't leave alone. If we went on holiday, I had to find somewhere with a gym. I couldn't go away and just lie on the beach for 2 weeks and come back and start training again. So we spent a lot of time in Florida that had a load of good gyms, as well as the theme parks and everything else. So I would go to the theme parks through the day with the family. I would do all the family stuff. Then we'd get back on the evening time, and when everybody was winding down, I would be off to the gym at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And I'd go and train 9 or 10 o'clock at night.
So about like off cycle, how did you take much time away from that when you were during them competitive years?
No, off.
So with the gear.
Yeah, so I would use gear because I was explaining to my nephew on the way down. I would use gear twice a year, 2 12 to 16 week cycles a year. And if I was doing that, I was doing gear half a year. I needed rest. That's the way I looked at it. I needed rest off, and you have to come off to get some natural structure back, to get some boost off the gear again. Otherwise, you're staying completely synthetic.
Yeah, that's funny. That's exactly how I used to do it. I used to do two blocks with probably, like you say, 6 or so weeks in between, 6 to 8 weeks in between, and then go again. Yeah. So to give yourself that little bit of rest.
And I found that way you and each cycle, a 12 to 16 week cycle, I'd probably have 3 different plateaus on. Right, so I wouldn't stay on any particular gear more than 6 to 8 weeks. So around the 4 to 6 week mark, I was tapering one out and bringing another set of steroids in. And then that around the 6 to 8 week mark, I was doing the same with that, so I would reach one plateau on a certain substance, and then change the substance to reach another plateau, then change the substance to reach another plateau. So I wasn't going up and just leveling off all the way through.
And what about nutrition? Like, what did your daily nutrition look like? And was it what sort of types of food was it? And was it particularly different in the off season as opposed to pre-contest?
No, that's the thing. I think like consistency is eating the same foods all year round, and that's the way. And I can put this. I think that's one of the biggest things in my improvements was keeping my diet all year around the same. Your body gets used to them same foods coming in. It creates enzymes to digest them foods. It's used to them foods coming in at them times. And so, but off season, I just had I basically would have a pizza if I fancied a pizza. I'd have a burger if I fancied a burger. I had a Chinese if I fancied a Chinese. I wouldn't replace any of my meals. So my excess calories were coming from the excess food that I was putting in on top of. Yeah. So when it came to getting ready for a show again, I was back to the same diet. I just had to cut the excess food out.
And what did the clean baseline? What did that look like?
Again, people will think I'm fibbing here, but this is not fibs. I didn't do oats. I did oats in the beginning of my career because that's what you get told to do. But on a lot of research of getting ready for shows, I found that when you're taking high levels of male testosterone, your female hormone estrogen will come in ratio with the synthetic level of male hormone, which when your male hormone drops quickly, it will leave your female hormone levels high, which is when you get your gynecomastia. And estrogen binds to gluten. Estrogen binds to gluten. So I used to go gluten-free for the last 6 weeks of my diet. I would completely cut out all wheat products. So for me, cereal in the morning would be cornflakes or Rice Krispies. People say, really? Yeah, cornflakes or Rice Krispies. With a little bit of skim milk just to wet them, and a little bit of canderel or stevia or something just to sweeten them, and that would be my cereal. I'd also have 6 to 8 full eggs. I wouldn't cut the egg yolks out because there's 3 grams of protein in every egg yolk. There's some good fats in every egg yolk too. So I wouldn't cut any egg yolks out. I'd have full eggs, 6 to 8 full eggs in the morning. Mid-morning, I'd have a 60-gram protein shake, and that would contain HMB, it would contain glutamine, it would contain creatine, it would contain branched chain amino, it would contain everything, and 2 bananas. Lunchtime, I'd buy a rotisserie chicken, and I'd just eat the rotisserie chicken breast, minus the skin and everything else, because it had flavour, because it had been cooked in its own juices. And I would let everybody else strip the rest of the chicken down. But I would just have the rotisserie chicken every day. And then mid-afternoon, I'd have another protein shake with 2 bananas. Evening time, I'd have either red meat or fish. I would alternate me red meat or fish. And I'd have boiled potatoes and salad. And then I'd also have probably 200-gram maltodextrin drinks, 2 to 3 sometimes, 100-gram maltodextrin drinks through the day. So I was always high on carbohydrates to keep my muscle full. It also kept my metabolism burning. I wasn't a big believer in loads of cardio. I did a little bit of cardio, but not loads of cardio. And high carbs. I kept my metabolism burning with high carbs and kept my muscle full and kept my energy up. My last 3-year training was the easiest years I ever got ready for any. It was my best 3 years of competition, and the easiest 3 years.
And what sort of calories were you looking at then, and how many sort of grams of protein and carbs
I think
and stuff?
I used to do a gram and a quarter. I used to do of protein per lean body weight. So I was probably in the region of just over 300 grams, 320 grams of protein, and probably 65% of my diet would be in the region of 600 to 700 grams of carbs and low fats, 50 grams of fat.
How low did the carbs go in pre-contest?
I kept my carb levels up pretty high all the way through, and I only had to deplete the last week,
right,
for carb loading.
So when you say you did a little bit of cardio, was that a little bit of cardio in the off season, or
no? I didn't do any cardio in the off season. It was just pre-contest, just to try and eliminate a little bit of excess water beneath the skin. But I wouldn't call it cardio. It was an intense aerobic workout where I was sweating, but I wasn't out of breath.
And I suppose you got quite a lot of that. Was it? I suppose if you're doing a lot of pumping work as well,
yeah,
that became quite like a
because
cardio.
When you train intensely, you're going into the gym for half an hour, but you're training for half an hour. That half an hour for most people would take an hour because they would stand around the gym. They would probably even an hour and a half. They wouldn't get the work in without getting in half an hour to 35 minutes. They would take an hour and a half to complete, and they would wonder why they weren't getting the gains. Keeping the muscle under load constantly is how you need to be to get that growth, And
it's kind of like sitting in that pain.
Yes, and keeping the pain. Yeah.
Do you think that people these days are kind of just overcomplicate things a little bit with because it sounds like super basic the stuff that you did.
100%. But the thing is, when people ask me, then what's the secret really? What's the secret? And you say to them, food. And they look at you as if I was wanting your best steroid, you know what I mean? And the secret is food. It's nutrition. Because with all the steroids in the world, if you haven't got your nutrition right, you ain't going to grow. You can't build a house without bricks,
Talk us through the 5 universe wins. Which meant the most to you?
I think the best look to us was the 1999 when I was at my driest and the best symmetry I had. The most was my last, I suppose, just to bow out to Nabba with 5 titles.
And break the record.
Yeah, and break a record.
Throughout the career, did you ever have a main rival? Obviously, you were the top of the tree for a lot of it through Nabba. I was kind of picture, when I first came in, I picture you and Lister.
Yeah.
And that, you two guys with the class 1 pinnacles. Yeah. But, did you have a main rival? Did you focus on anybody else, or was it just all about you?
Gary beat me once at it was Jim Charles' Pro-Am show, and I thought I'd won it in, I think it was 97, and I won it again in 98. And I went in 99, I was a bit complacent, and I just thought I was at 2000, might have been 2000. I was a bit complacent, and I just thought I'm big enough. And I never looked at Gary as a threat, because Gary had a lot more weaknesses than me. Great physique, good tall class competitor. But if I was to break his physique down, he had weak arms like me. But I think mine had a bit more thickness to the tricep, and he had weak arms. He had great shoulders, so that was his emphasis on his pose, and he had great shoulder width. But then he had weak hamstrings and weak calves. So I didn't have weaknesses in there. He had weaknesses. All he beat me on was a bit of shoulders. And if I could come with a condition that he also had a bit better condition at the time. If I could come with that condition, there was no way he was going to beat us. And that's just the way I looked at it. I was always probably 15 to 20 pound heavier than him. So when he did beat us, I came away from that competition thinking you have beat us on condition that day. And he was in fantastic condition that day, but I thought, you're not going to do it again.
Did you ever really focus on other people, or was it just about you?
No, it was always about me. It was always about me because as long as you were going at the best of your ability, then that's all you can ask of yourself. You know, if you get beat by somebody better, then you've got no shame in that. But you've got a shame in going knowing that you haven't given it your all, you know.
How easy was it to stay motivated when you were the top of the tree? You had 1, 3, 4 on the bounce. You know, how was it to get that drive to keep pushing on for more?
Again, it comes down to how selfish you are, you know. I mean, I was working 5 days a week in the gym, 12-hour days. I was working the doors 5 nights a week. You know what I mean? 4 or 5 hours. I basically worked at the gym, went home for an hour, went to work on the doors, went to bed for 5 hours, got up and went to work again. That was my cycle. And I was, you know, like, I had no other life other than working and training. And still trying to, like, well, the kids didn't get a lot of me time as they were younger, which is one of the reasons I spend a lot more time with my son now, Max, you know, because I didn't have that time when I was younger, when I was competing.
Absolutely. So you did your 5.
Yeah.
You decided it was time to move on. Was it hard to let go?
It was not hard to let go. I knew I was, I'd done what I could do, and I knew, like you said, there's not many that'll compete in Nabba to that extent where they'd win 5 because they don't have that passion. I'd come in reverse. I'd gone to the IFBB and come back to Nabba. There's not many who's going to go to the IFBB, do 4 years, get sick, and come back to Nabba. They'll get sick and just retire from IFBB, you know. So I came back over in reverse, and I enjoyed doing what I was doing. So there's not, and in Nabba, you know yourself, after people's won 1 title, they think, oh, that'll do me. There's not many going to chase that 5 titles in Nabba. You know, and I just think that legacy will stand for a long time.
Absolutely. You jacked in with the bodybuilding. Mm-hmm. You still had that competitive drive, and you moved into the strongman.
Yeah. Well, basically, that was only supposed to be for a bit of a pleasure, should I say? Because I'd always been a strong bodybuilder, so it was just a bit like, oh, I'll just see the end of my career off doing a little bit of strongman as a hobby, you know, and. There was a local strongman who passed away a few years ago. It said, why don't you come over to Sedgefield to train with Steve Brooks and them, who were like big strongmen at the time? And I said, yes. And I just won the last Universe in the November or something. So I said, let's get Christmas out of the road. You know, we'll start in the new year. New Year came around and he said, Steve doesn't want you coming. He says, it's all his kid, doesn't want anybody else to train on it. I went, all right, okay, fair enough. So then Dave Warner said it was, why don't you come down to Darren's yard? But I don't think he'd like told Darren, you know, he just asked Darren. And so I ended up turning up at Darren's yard in the spring of that year. And I could see in Darren's demeanour at the time, oh, no, another one, you know what I mean? Like another bodybuilder or another person who wants to be, because they were all really serious, you know. Anyway, I got out of the car and I put me all into everything, and they realised that I did have strength. It was just a raw power. I just needed coaching, you know, and I didn't have any of the kit. So we decided to do a qualify, which was Steve Brooks qualify. So it was all his kit at Gateshead Stadium. So the coach was the best they could, you know what I mean? In the couple of months I had to prepare for that competition, I was travelling down to Burbridge every day, and not every day, once or twice a week, using the kit at Darren's, but I still didn't have a lot of time, and I got second to Steve Brooks at this competition. But people could see that I had the potential then. You know, I was just coming into it. I ended up going to the Britain finals maybe 6 weeks later in Wales. And I was flying when I started in the Britain finals. I'd won my first 2 events. I'd get to see a 3rd or 4th in the Shield Carry, which wasn't really an event for me, but I was looking to piss me heat, right? And I ended up tearing me bicep on the stones because I'd never lifted stones before, you know, and I knew I had a strong enough back to pick stones up, but I'd picked them up wrong. I'd picked them up with my arms underneath, and the strain on the bicep just popped me bicep. So I had to withdraw from the finals, and the lad who was running up, a well behind runner up, ended up winning the finals. You know, so I knew I was capable. So I decided, like, I'll try and heal the bicep. And then I got a call off Dougie Edmonds to say, did I want to go to Canada to do a strongman team event in Winnipeg? I said, I've just torn my bicep. Give us a couple of weeks to see how it feels after, you know, it was only 6 weeks after the Britons. But I decided to go. And there was 36 athletes there. I think there was 7 teams of 6. Is that right? Oh, no,
6 teams of 6.
6 teams of 6.
Yeah.
6 is 36. 6 teams of 6. And there was the USA, the Czech, Dutch, us. Gregor Edmonds was there, Forbes Cowan. We had a good team. Bill Pittick. Bill Pittick was always high up on the scene at Britain's Strongest Man. And me and Bill hit it off there, you know, we had a great time. And really, like, we went all relaxed. And I still say it was because I was that relaxed at that show and I didn't put any stress on myself, is why we did so well. So we went just totally relaxed. It was in a nightclub in Winnipeg, right? So it was a big arena inside of a nightclub, and then some of it was outside in the car park at this competition. And me and Bill were winning everything. Yeah, like so you had to do individual events to score points for your team. So we ended up winning the team event because we had the most points as team competitors, and I ended up winning the overall because I had the most points overall as a single person. And so I came away from that, and that was only 6 weeks after the Britons, and I beat Rich Goslin, who'd won the Britons, you know, at this event. So who knows if I was injury free at the Britons, I could have been Britain's Strongest Man, probably.
Just going back to Steve Brookside, did he ever go at bodybuilding?
He did, and he did very well. He came to me for advice.
So I remember coming up to your show in Hartlepool, and I want to see who the
When he
Class
won.
1 guys were about.
Yeah.
And he did that, but he didn't turn up at the Britain,
No, he
which
didn't.
I was very thankful for.
Yeah.
Because he was a unit, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a unit. I don't understand why he didn't go that year. I mean...
Yeah, I seen him on stage. I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he didn't turn up at the Britain, which was a good thing for me at the time. So,
but you find that in the bodybuilding sport. I mean, I used to the year I won my IFBB Pro card, I'd actually gone to an area qualifier and got third at the Commodore Theatre in Nottingham to Linky Wilson and Peter Chapman, and given a third, they didn't qualify me. And I'm thinking, like, fucking, I'm still good enough to qualify. And I was like, it was a kick in the stots, really, you know. So Peter Chapman and Linky Wilson had qualified. I gets a third. And I come off stage and my dad said, you burnt yourself out. I think you should take a year out. You should come back next year, blah, blah, blah. I went, nah. I said, I'm going again. I said, it's all who turns up best on the day. So I went again and I qualified at the North IFBB Championships. I won because I was only heavyweight competitor there that day, but I was on form when I qualified. Anyway, I got me qualifier and I was going to the finals, but I started travelling around all the EFBB area shows to see who was competing. That year, Basil competed, Linky Wilson. It was honestly, the lineup, the lineup was phenomenal, right? It was just like, it looked like a pro lineup. Like the AFBB finals, was probably 10 heavyweights on the stage, and you know how Basil Francis was. He was like the best of the best at the time, and I beat Basil Francis that day. But I'm not saying, and I'll still say it this day, the top 6 in that competition, I would not have been upset if I'd have gotten anywhere in that top 6 because it was that close. You know, the top 6 that day was that close. Would for me to get me pro card in that line out, it was phenomenal.
yeah, like you said, and to win it with only one pro card available is it was.
Yeah, and I think that was what upset Basil, and maybe he's retired Basil. You know, because like you know you have to come back in another year, and can you do it?
Yeah.
The mental side of things, you know what I mean, and just what it takes out of you, your family and everything else. You know, it's a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So going back to the strongman then, so. How much did your training change? Obviously, you had that routine going on. Did you move more to like a powerlifting sort of base and event training, or was it the same sort of style of training, or how did you work it?
My training obviously changed within the gym. I did train more heavy, but for reps still. But I tried to form a routine round what events I was going to be competing in. So if it was a log lift, I would be using a lot of triceps on me pushing and a lot of jerking movements. Like, imagine all this time I'd been promoting in the gym correct form, you know what I mean, slow squeeze. Then all of a sudden people see me throwing dumbbells about, like hammer curling dumbbells, chucking them up like hammer curls that way, you know what I mean, to emulate getting the log up, you know. And I'm chucking, and people are looking at us and I'm saying, don't be thinking that you should be doing them like this. You know, because that's not how you should do them for a bodybuilder. Yeah. But for a strongman, you need to get your ligaments strong. You know, you need to get your tendons strong. It's all about the movement you're doing and the strength what you need in them movements. Like, I'd go on the cross trainer, right? I'd put on his heaviest thing. I'd grab hold of the handles and I'd start pulling backwards, right? As if I was dragging something. So I'd get my feet used to going back over like that, you know? So
you had to make it specific to
what
you're
actually doing. I made it specific for what I was doing,
Yeah. Which sport's tougher then, bodybuilding or strongman?
Bodybuilding's much tougher mentally, physically. Strongman, don't get us wrong, it's a very, very tough sport, but it's more enjoyable. It's just the injuries that would come from strongman can be for life, you know.
I was going to ask that, which one did you actually enjoy more? Did you enjoy doing the strongman?
I enjoyed them both, but I knew I couldn't do strongman and bodybuilding together. I had to finish my bodybuilding career because, like I say, I've suffered injuries from strongman.
So which titles did you win in strongman?
I won 3 England Strongest Man off the trot, 2003 to 2005. And that was it. I went to World Strongest Man.
And if you'd have focused on strongman from the start, how far did you think you would have got in it?
I was capable of probably being a world's strongest man if I'd been from the start, you know, but that's not what I chose. Same as boxing. If I'd chose boxing from the start, I could have been a world champion boxer. You would never know unless you, like you say, it's your choice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't look back and say, if I had, I would have been, because you don't know.
How did the mindset and focus differ from bodybuilding and strongman? Because obviously bodybuilding is very much like a 24/7 focus. You're constantly thinking about your next meal, your next training session. And I'm sure you obviously do, you know, a lot with strongman. But like for strongman, it is for that peak performance, for that intense moment, as opposed to bodybuilding, which is, you know, potentially in prep a 4-month journey.
Yeah, I think basically it's the same with like, the diet is, you don't have to diet for a strongman competition. You've just got to consume enough calories and good calories. You still have to probably have to do a little bit more cardio as such, so you've got your heart and lungs fit. But my intensity in the gym anyway had me fit. So when I went into strongman, the events, the medleys and everything else that they set up, I used to run away with them because my heart and lungs were fit. I used to set me and Darren used to do a medley outside my gym, which was carry a 120 kilo barrel, 20 metres, carry 215 farmer's walk things in each hand, 20 metres back. Then, so it was a duck walk, 220 kilo duck walk between the legs, 20 metres, and then drag a 280 or 300 kilo anchor back, right? So it was an 80 metre medley, 4 different aspects of a medley, and all heavy over 20 metres. Nobody could do it. You know what I mean? Me and Darren used to run away with it. And the best I ever did was just breaking the minute barrier. I could do them 4 items in a minute. But most people we invited down to try it could never finish it.
Yeah. And you ended up competing at the World's Strongest Man. What was that like?
Great, but I tore my bicep. And again, on my other bicep, I tore on the first event. So I was really, because you get your events in advance of going to World's Strongest Man. You get told what group you're getting put into. And I was put in one of the best groups, which was Savickas and Samuelson. You know, so I've got like the 2. So I'm put in anyway as a maybe. You know what I mean? Because they expect them 2 to go through. So I trained, and Darren would back me up on this. I trained for every event, and I was 100% right. I was doing 160 kilo farmers, carrying them for like 13, 14 seconds over the 20 meters, which was one of my events. I was doing everything bang on. I was on form. And the first event was a duck walk and tire flip, and in the heat. But like, you don't get like the tires were the heaviest they'd ever been, but you don't get a 200 or 300 kilo tire to warm up with. You know what I mean? So that's an implement that you're going into cold, really, as much as it was warm outside. Your muscles is not prepared for it, and me back it slipped on my arm and pulled me bicep, and I felt fibers go. I felt them go, and it was like piano strings. And I thought, oh, my biceps gone, but I carried on flipping. But it slowed us right up, and then on my last flip, another fiber went. I came away and I said to my parents, I said, my biceps gone. You know what I mean? And I thought, my next events, the farmers, the 160 kilo farmers, so I got them to strap it up, and I just thought, if I can keep my arm locked out, because it's not going to tear any more fibers, as long as I can keep me grip and keep it locked out, and I don't get any movement in the farmer's walk, I should still be able to do this event. And I thought, I'll do that event and then just bow out just to save a bit of face, you know. So I did that event. Actually, I did the squat, because that was okay as well. Didn't do too bad on the squat. I couldn't do the train pull, because I couldn't pull on the track. You know, I couldn't really. I did it, but I wasn't very, because I couldn't get a pull on the track. And then it was the farmers. I would have been able to do stones. I just wanted to do what I could to show that I was still there. So I did the farmers, picked them up, and I thought, I've got them. And I started running with them. I'm thinking, I'm doing a decent time. Just before the line, I felt a little bit of rock in the handle, and the fibers started when it went again, and just went I had to let go, otherwise my arm was going to come off. And I let go, and it just stopped on the line. So then I had to drag it above the line. I knew it was done. Then it was just done.
That was your only experience of World's Strongest Man. You didn't.
That was my only experience. Yeah, I was too old.
Right.
And then I retired in 2005. And in 2008, Dad gets a call of Darren Sadler saying, do you want to do Britain's Strongest Man in 5 weeks' time? I went, Darren, I haven't even trained, man. You know what I mean? I know, but like the shorter competitors, and said they'd give you a wild card. I said, and you know what I'm like, I don't want to accept a wild card. I want to earn my place if I'm going. And I thought, no, but what if? You know what I mean? My ego started getting the better of me. What if? I said, ask them if I can have a couple of weeks to feel myself out with the training, because I'd still been training in the gym, but not with props. So I said, ask them if I can have a couple of weeks to feel myself out with the props. He says, right, okay. He says, yeah. They said, all right, come down to my yard. So I went down to his yard, and we did a few things, and I thought, well, I'm not too far off. You know what I mean? If I can just go this year and just do okay, then maybe it'll give us a boost to come back next year. Anyway, I did go, and I qualified to go through at the final. So I got second in my heat to Terry Hollands. I got all 5 stones on the wall. I'd done all the barrels over the toss of the barrels and in decent time. So I hadn't done too badly, but like I wasn't. You know, I had a shoulder injury at the time, and I just said to myself, "What are you doing?" You know what I mean? Look, like you're not in your youth. You're not. The only way this is going to go is more injury. You know, so I just thought, like, no, I can't push this. Yeah, it's time to call it. There's too many youths coming through.
Thanks so much for listening. Please remember to like, share and subscribe. And if you need any more information on the Transformation Programme, just hit the link below.